What happened to content grouping in GA4? Or why did Google kind of abandon that concept of you being able to group your content by topics, for example, and then analyze what happens with each group? To understand that, let's start with the universal way of doing things. Here we see how content was grouped in Universal Analytics for data-driven new website. In order to have this content group as a dimension, you were to go into the settings of a view and then set content grouping in, let's say, set of sieves. In GA4, the creators did leave some room for you to analyze content groups the same way that you did in Universal, but there are so many hoops to jump through that it's obvious that they are kind of abandoning this model. Just for the sake of demonstration, you would go to engagement, choose pages and screens, and from the drop-down of the dimensions, you would choose content group. Obviously, we are seeing everything bucketed into not set, because in order for this to work, you would need to go into Google Tag Manager and attach a parameter saying that page was related to Google Analytics or GTM or social media or whatever topic are you writing about. But the analysis of that data is potentially misleading in GA4 because of the very nature of the session being able to include multiple topics at the same time, whereas you were looking at just one line of data and trying to figure out which topic performs better than the other one. So we're not going to go this old school route. Instead, we're gonna go into exploration reports that I created for this particular demonstration. I'm gonna show you the end result first, and then I'm gonna go step by step through the creation of this exploration. So basically, we're looking at page path dimension here, analyzed for total users and the conversions that happen on those pages. Now, if we look at this table here, we can say that there are blog posts containing the word Google Analytics 4 in the URL, but also there are blog posts that say GA4. So let's say we want to analyze how these two perform head to head. We would actually create a segment. Now let me show you how I created these ones, because I don't want to take you through the entire process repeating the same thing over and over again. But we basically say include users where a page path as a parameter contains GA4 and name it accordingly. Go back and then do the same thing for Google Analytics 4. And then the third segment that I created is the one that excludes everything containing GA4 or Analytics 4. I even excluded the homepage here because it skewed my data. So when we apply these three segments, we can see that the percentage of people who convert from the segment number 1, which is Analytics 4, is about 10%. Then if we look at the GA4, it converts in a lower percentage, whereas the other category, which basically takes up everything else on the website, is about 5% of a conversion rate. Let's create this table from scratch. Let's go to freeform. And then I will click on this plus sign here to add the page path. I already did that, so I actually just double click on the page path here, and then I click on, for example, total users, and exploration creates a table automatically. Now it's time to create a segment, so I would say user segment, and then type here page path in order to identify particular page path, let's say PPC. So I will call it accordingly. Obviously, the number of users is so low that it doesn't make sense to analyze this content group at all. But you get the point. It's about asking the right question to Google Analytics, because it actually pushes you to analyze users, because the segments represent users in GA4. Yes, you can create a segment based on sessions, but then if you build an audience, which is a superpower of GA4, and I'm going to show you on an account with a developed audience structure in just a second here, the audience would actually consist of users and not the sessions themselves. So the point here is when I apply, let's say GA4 and then Analytics 4, and also I wanted to analyze, yes, I wanted to analyze conversions as well, so let's double click on them also. But several blog posts contain the word understand, so I'm going to apply that segment as well here, because I want to understand how, no pun intended, I want to understand how do users who visit those pages convert. So if we scroll down a little bit here to the right, we will see that these users actually convert in about 15%, right? That's higher by all means than any of these two. This is at 10%, this is less than 10%, like 8% or something. Now, to make this table even nicer, we could pivot around first row. So the first row are the segments. So if I say let's pivot, we're going to see the table a little bit differently. And then this is possible only retroactively. So you wouldn't be able to create this table without any rows. But if I remove this row of a page path, you would see a nice table saying Analytics 4 had this many users and this many conversions, GA4 as well, and understand also like this. The downside of comparing segments like this is that you can only apply 4 segments per table. So when I click on how right now, it says maximum number of segments applied. So there's only room for 4, but you can always duplicate the table, and then if you want to compare in this particular table, I'm going to remove others and say how, just to understand. By the way, how represents blog posts that start with how. So how to track page views in GA4, or how to do this and that. As you can see, how actually converts very poorly. So it's not something that we are gonna continue in the future to write blog posts starting with the word how. Now, remember when I said that you should turn your segments into audiences? If we look at this understand segment, and we see that it performs nicely, we're going to actually turn it into audience and save it to this account so we can analyze these people in GA4 and then possibly target them on Google advertising platform. Now let me show you an account with a developed audience structure. This is basically pages and screens report. I only switched dimension here from page path to be audience name. Obviously I made it default. And then you can see here how each of these audiences, which are described in a manner that you probably don't understand, but you can see we have different audiences. Say sessions that started from January 21st to February 19th, because that's when they had some kind of a promotion. But also we have people interested in employment, or people interested into solar panels or floor heating, or different categories. But now you can compare them head to head, and have in mind that if you use this table filter, it would only give you a picture of audiences based on the interest of visitors. And then now you can say, okay, people interested in solar panels stay on website for 4 minutes and 26 seconds on average, versus, I don't know, people about container housing, they stay way less, but the conversion rate per session is higher for the container housing versus solar panels. So as we said, it's important to turn your meaningful segments into audiences, and then once they gather many users in them, you can analyze how they behave, rather than think about pages as a separate entity the way that Universal was prompting you to. Now, for those of you who are not afraid to poke around Google Tag Manager a little bit, you need to, number one, create a variable, a user-defined one, that is of type regex table. Let's name it content grouping. We need to set input variable to page path, and then add rows as we did with segments. So analytics-4 should output analytics 4 content group. We do the same thing for GA4. let's create one for understand, just for fun. And let's set a default value to other. And also we want to ignore case, but turn off full matches only because we want to match on a partial path. Also turn this one off because Google says that this should be turned off. Anyway, we save this variable. And now the only remaining thing is to refer to it in the GA4 configuration tag, which is, I think, this one here. Yeah. So now we have fields to set, and we say content group, and here it is. Now if we save this one and turn the debugger on, for example, let's go straight to this page. This is the debugger that we should be looking at. Yeah, content group says GA4 because this page actually says GA4 measurement ID. I hope that now you understand better why does content grouping receive such a reduced attention from Google Analytics in this edition, and how should you go about handling this problem of actually understanding users that visit particular pages versus analyzing sessions itself. If you like this video, please click the like button and subscribe to our channel. See you soon.